Alright, starting over. Hello, this is Shon. I'm doing a walkthrough of my DAWless rig. What we have going here, I got a piece of paper that you probably can't see. Let's see if I can get going on this camera here. Okay. So, what we have here, test, 1, 2, 3. We'll move this microphone a little bit. Oh, gosh. So what we got going here is there's the two sides to this whole rig, which is the center of all of it's the task cam, and that is this thing right here. If you can see that, the task cam on this thing here controls both the clock for the MIDI and is the main recorder for the audio. Now technically I tend to record on another device, but that's how it works. So the task cam sends MIDI clock out, which goes to this keyboard here, and then goes to this device over here called the Korg Electribe, which then in turn, I don't know if you can see that from here, which then in turn goes to that box over there, which splits it 4 times and then sends it to all the different devices. So in terms of MIDI, everything is start and stopped on this device, so that you can do stuff like overdubbing, so you can record, play things back, re-record, even use the same device over and over again. Maybe play chords with a device that can't play chords, yada yada yada. So acts as the main brain in terms of timing and sequence start and stop in terms of the sequencers and all the digital stuff. But it's also a multi-track recorder. And the big thing with that is that it has 2 inputs, 2 mono, or they can also be paired in stereo. And so you get all this, you get sort of the ability to not only, you can actually plug in guitars directly and all that. I hope my levels are coming through properly. And the big thing with that is test 1, 2, 3. I'm getting some level, so we can at least be able to fix this later. Is that you can multi-track things multiple different times. I've already said that, but it also has a send and return. Those are those cables there. So from basically after you send the clock out, it goes to that, and then it goes to all of the synthesizers here, which are all routed via MIDI. At least those are synthesizers. The unit on the top is the Novation A station, which is then followed by the second rack. There's a bracket there. It's 3D printed. That's the not Nord. I wanted a Nord drum, but it was too expensive. That's the Volca drum. The device over there, that's the Volca keys, and then this is the Behringer Model D, which is a Moog clone. The other 2 units are rack units, and that's a whole nother thing. So all of those go to the mixer, which then in turn can be sent on individual groups over to the multi-track, which is kind of a mixer in its own way, but it's a different thing. It doesn't have as much ability to it can EQ and stuff, but it's much more difficult, and it doesn't have like compressors and the like, and the routing options are a little bit more limited. So a lot of it is handled in that way. So as the sequencer's playing, you can change the timbres and all that stuff, and then do multiple different passes. I can also, using this effects pedal here, which also acts like a DI, hopefully you can see that properly, can send things to the board from that bass there. And I've modified it recently. That has the new pickups and all that stuff. So basically I can go to this device here, rewind, record out a bit on the task cam, and then record a bit, whether it be something sequenced or something played live, roll the tape back. You could even sing, all that kind of stuff, and then basically do some basic tracking with that. Now, from there, it has its own ability to do sends and returns on effects, which are pretty neat. Those there, those red, orange, and yellow cables. That's going to a lexicon reverb. There's also those are those two units on the bottom. The top one is a Ellipsis quadriverb. The bottom one is a lexicon. Lexicon's working pretty well. It's not as complicated. And I've done a lot of repairs on the Ellipsis quadriverb and quite haven't gotten it to be where it needs to be. But I need to get a multimeter and do some more testing, which sounds like all kinds of fun. So the big thing with all this is, I think I might have done this a bit backwards. The whole point of DAWless is more of like a philosophical thing, more so than like, I don't know, like a popular way of doing things. It's definitely like a subset. And the big thing with it is that it's a different approach to sound. DAW means digital audio workstation, like a DAW, like Reaper, Cubase, FL Studio, whatever, at Ableton. DAWless is sort of a different approach. Now, in terms of end product, a keyboard like this on its own, this Arturia 37 here, paired with some VSTs, virtual instruments, would definitely be a much more pragmatic way of approaching that problem. It's more of a changing the approach. Like, you can get software libraries, not software library, that's a programming thing, instrument libraries, and get someone that's sampled every different way you can play a violin, different articulations, different ways of playing it, and then go and automate all the parameters and stuff and get something that sounds very convincing, especially in a full mix. It'd be hard to tell the difference. There's a lot of composers that do television stuff that way. But there's also some kind of I don't know what would the right word be, je ne sais quoi, or some sort of, whatever in college, I don't fully know what it means, but just sort of the hard to describe, you're not just merely thinking end product, but also how you approach. And I notice on every kind of different way I do things, it sort of changes the sort of decision making. If you have physical hardware effects, if you take an effect in Reaper and you put as an insert, you don't need to run cable. You don't really have to worry about the same kind of considerations you would have to worry about on a setup like this, where actual physical cables are going, sort of like self-noise and how much things are colored and sound. You still get a bit of, compressors sound different, yada yada. But if you're running, definitely can do different experimentation and stuff on a hardware setup that you can, like from a technical, scientific perspective, do all that in software, but it's a different approach. There's no reason to ever say that any of this is actually better than a software-based approach, but it's different, and there's different pros and cons to that. So anyways,